we are printing some book pages today. You're welcome to look through the things that are sitting on the table there. And I've got a fresh sheet of paper in place. I'm going to put some ink on the letters, which will need to happen for every copy, just like using a stamp. You kids have all used stamps before, haven't you?
Yes, actually, yes.
Yep. And what I'm using to put the ink on here are called ink balls. You've got one there on the table to handle if you wish. Yours is only missing the ink.
Can you feel it?
Hold it. Press it. How they change the letters?
Well, when we're done printing from these pages, which is not necessarily at the end of the day, it's just whenever we've reached the quantity that we're aiming for, for the total number of books. This form will be removed from the press. It'll be cleaned one last time, allowed to dry, and then the letters will all go right back into the cases where they started, just like your silverware. It has to be washed and dried and put away so it can be used again. And that's just what we do with letters. And there's a few over there if you'd like to handle them. There should be a T, an H, and E, and a space in that lowercase over there.
So you re-ink for each page?
For each sheet of paper. But you see, I have 4 pages here, whereas in the other press I've got 2 pages that I'm putting onto a single sheet of paper. So the number of pages is variable. What we count at the press is sheets of paper, because that is constant. Are you taking the other over as well, Peter?
Ooh, yeah. Let me check it.
Yeah, they would have to cook. They would put the coals on top of it. What are you cooking?
Well, we baked a couple chickens, and this is a quick bread.
Has your mother got your younger sister then?
And I'm just going to put a few more coals on top of this.
So you didn't put it on the fire, you put the coals on top.
What is he doing?
He's cooking, he's making bread inside of there. And they're putting the coals on top.
That's how they used to cook.
That's how they cook. Well, not everything, but I guess this.
He's cooking bread.
Inside
Didn't
is
it
bread.
get a...
No, you just opened it. It looked very good.
They're bringing over a pot of vegetables.
What is the cloth for?
Questions? Rags, they're to be sold to a paper company eventually, so paper might be made. In fact, the paper that you can touch right there is all made of fibers from old clothes. I might need your help to put that in the bag in 10 minutes.
I was going to run home. May I do that later then?
If you want, yeah, if you want to go. Let's hang these things up. So you're going to come back at 1 o'clock?
Well, if you need, if you wish to have assistance with all of this, I'll do that later.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get these things hung up to dry. And I've got that pot on the floor back there, but my goal is to put it on the press.
You might wish to keep an eye on them playing around the water now and then. Is there other good one?
no, that's...
Alright, so these will dry on the lines. And I think you can already see the ones that Ollie has printed. All of the ones on this line so far.
How long does it take to dry?
Minutes to hours. It varies enormously with the weather. Obviously, a rainy day, the water won't leave the paper very quickly. We print with a damp paper. If the paper is dry, it's too stiff to work. For instance, if you feel those things there, they're going to feel hard, and you might find that the letters have indented rather deeply into the paper. For us to get the best surface contact between paper and type, we use pressure, but we also need to have the paper moist. Like for any of you, if you have, when you're much littler, use Play-Doh, fresh from the can, it's soft and malleable, squishable. What's it like after you leave it exposed to the air for hard? So our paper, coming in bundles of 500 sheets from Europe, better arrive dry or it's ruined. It has to be run through a water tub, usually the day before we're going to use it. So if we want to have paper absorb the water, we want the paper to expand, and while it's in an expanded state, that's when we're going to print on it.
So it's actually wet when you're printing on it?
No, it's merely damp.
It's damp.
Now you tell me, if the ink is made from an oil, why would it not work very well to use a paper that's soaking wet?
It would give it a different color?
We separated because the oil is lighter than water.
And perhaps another way of saying it, oil and water don't mix. Right, so we're using oil-based ink. It's also not just the oil of either whales or seals or oil from flax plants, like the seeds that you see hanging from the nail there. It's also combined with the sap of the pine tree and boiled, so it has a certain stickiness. If you want to think of it as similar to house paint, well, you wouldn't be far off. But we want to have an ink that dries over a period of hours. And we want to be able to print for half the day before we have to wash anything. Well, the ingredients are right over there for you to see. That the first vial on the extreme left is the linseed oil. That's boiled with that sap of the pine tree. It's boiled for a period of hours. And then when it's thick enough, you remove it from the heat, and then you add some soot to it. Purpose-made carbon made by what they're called a lamp black maker. So a lamp black maker produces soot, and that's what's in the ink to give it this color. We're very fortunate that they used the kind of paper that they did and the kind of inks that they did, because we're not hurting for surviving newspapers and pamphlets and books and lottery tickets and money and all sorts of things. However, some of the writing ink of the 18th century, it still survives, but the color has changed. So if you see something in town where the printing ink is black, yet the paper is very brown, well, that paper is probably fairly discolored from when it was first made. Another thing, the writing inks that you see that are brown would have to be fairly old, because they were black when they were first used.
So the printing press was allowed to make their own currency and print their own lottery tickets? That wasn't regulated?
Well, we print for the Virginia government, and it's the Treasury that has us print the money, and they're not trusting us very far while we're printing it. So they're going to be here with us while we're doing any work for them. But no, it's not intended that we print money for ourselves. It's a capital crime, and usually the people that are convicted of that are executed. So we don't make a lot of jokes about counterfeiting here. But the currency that's produced is really for Virginia only. It's not something that's going to be usable in Britain itself. And if you know something about modern American history, you can still produce your own money if you're a store. In fact, the greenbacks that all of you know about, those don't even start until the time of Abraham Lincoln. So, even the museum here for a while tried to print its own currency, and that didn't go over real well. What they were figuring on doing is producing the currency, and then people would take it home as a souvenir, and then a dollar never spent is pure profit for the person issuing the currency. Have you kids seen that the modern American mint produces all sorts of interesting coins that people never circulate? Right?
The commemorative coins?
They're making money off of that deal. And the same thing is true with stamps and whatever else.
So who protested when the museum did that?
No one protested,
Oh.
it just didn't really take on your